we're great at loving people in theory, but terrible at actually doing it,
Yeah,
So I think when we actually
absolutely.
begin to like walk among people who are messy, also ourselves, we're messy ourselves. Like I think that's when God begins to shape and change our heart. But other ways to like, how do we change? How do we shift out of that mode?
Hmm. Well, obviously, my my first question would be, how do you change yourself? Right? You're asking like, how do we shift out of that mode? Something I've been considering a lot is um, when you screw up. Okay. So angry guy, angry evangelist guy who's trying to correct everybody all the time. Hey, angry evangelist guy, what does the voice sound like in your head when you screw up? It's like, well, it sounds angry and militant. And it's like, okay. So here's a problem with that is that's not the way we truly change, according to Romans 2:4. Romans 2:4 says, or have you forgotten that it's the kindness of God that leads us to change? So I would maybe perhaps have them consider the way God talks to Adam and Eve in the garden. Frederick Buechner pointed this out years ago, but God doesn't sound like the angry evangelist. He sounds like a psychotherapist, right? He doesn't go, Adam and Eve, what were you thinking? How dare you bring sin and destruction into my entire universe? You know, he had a lot of right to be very angry.
Yes.
And yet the way he sounds, he says, "Where are you? Who told you that?" And I go, is the voice in your head when you screw up that curious and that kind? Or is it condemning and accusatory? Because we're given this picture that there's Satan, right, in the Hebrew, which means adversary, and later he's called the accuser of the brethren. And then you have the Holy Spirit who brings conviction and correction, but ultimately he's the comforter. So I go, so is the voice in your head, it's not pampering and endorsing dysfunctional behavior, but is it inherently accusatory or comforting? Is it cruel or is it kind? Is it condemning or is it convicting? And I go, that might help you. The more you hear God's voice the way that it really is, it's going to shift the way that you talk.
Yeah, that is good. So, Mike, are we saying that we can't agree to disagree with other people, and we just need to throw away all our beliefs, all this kind of thing? So, like, are you saying that? And if not, how do you disagree with somebody well? Like, what does that look like? Like, are we just supposed to be vanilla in all of our theology and beliefs and lives? If not, how do we disagree with someone well?
Man, what a great question. Um, the answer is, of course not. Of course, we're not to water down what we believe to make other people feel better. But here's the good news. Most people don't really want or need to be agreed with. They simply want to be understood and known and heard. My buddy and I, we go running, and 2 days ago he texts me, and he only texts me when he wants to talk. He's like a run talker guy. I don't know if you've ever had a friend like that in your life, but he lives down the block, and I just, randomly I'll get a text, run question mark, and I go, oh, I wonder what Mark wants to talk about this time. and we meet halfway between our houses. It's fun. And of course he launches into this thing. He goes, man, my wife and I, we've been seeing a therapist and we've been fighting over this one issue for 2 years. And we just finally had this major breakthrough. And I go, okay, what is it? He goes, well, she was making her point and I repeated it back to her. And I said, so what you mean is da 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 da. And she goes, yes. And I go, so did you guys end up agreeing? He goes, no. I go, but what happened? He goes, well, she felt like I actually understood her. And so what I always try to tell people is if you're in the middle of a hot disagreement, whether it be about theology or what's your favorite movie, I say the key to beginning that discussion is to repeat back your opponent's argument so well that they themselves would go, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. The problem isn't that we don't agree. The problem is we characterize the other person. And before we've even really understood what they're saying, we go, so what you're saying is you think that all the people in the world should blah, blah, blah. And we make these, cartoon-esque versions of their argument. Well, yeah, people get bothered because you're not hearing me or understanding me. So maybe just start there.
That's good. That's good. I want to keep digging on this. And I love your voices, by the way. God the Father sounds like the Godfather, and
The Godfather, that's right. Hey, listen, I got some plans for you guys, okay? I'm gonna create the world, and then I gotta ask you a little favor, okay?
so actually listen and hear a person.
Yes.
How else do we disagree with the person well? That's good.
Yeah, curiosity and kindness. I mean, those are essential. And I think that bleeds over. It's kind of what I was already saying with how God talks to us, but clarifying questions, so help me understand. What are you saying? So you're saying this. And even after you think you've understood what they're saying, just keep honoring their perspective. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. I was in a debate with some lady, and I forget the specifics about what we were talking about, but she was so hostile. And I thought that I had understood her argument. And I'm like, gosh, I don't understand. And I try to reframe it. And she's just still so angry. And then I remember most people are angry because they want something or because they're really scared. And so I asked a question. I said, what are you afraid of right now? And it was an about face. And she went from hostility and yelling at me to crying, shifting. And eventually I got to pray for her because we got down to the root of it, which again wasn't being understood. It was that she was afraid.
That's powerful.